Dozen of motorcycles, 2 vehicles, 2 ground robotic systems, 7 drones, 3 pieces of special equipment, and 15 shelters were reported destroyed as Russian assault groups tried to push toward Pokrovsk and Myrnorod. That number is not just a damage report. It is a warning about the kind of battle now unfolding on the Donetsk front. Russia is no longer relying only on large armored columns with tanks, BMPs, and APCs rushing straight into Ukrainian lines. Instead, Russian forces are sending smaller, faster, and harder-to-predict assault groups forward, using motorcycles, ATVs, light vehicles, quad bikes, and scattered infantry to cross open ground before Ukraine can react. But speed is becoming the danger. A Russian group racing through a tree line, a dirt road, or a narrow corridor may look flexible from the ground. From above, it looks different. Ukrainian reconnaissance UAVs can see the direction of movement. Once that movement is seen, FPV drones and artillery can turn one fast assault into a chain of targets. This battle shows a brutal lesson of modern war. Moving fast may help a unit survive the first few hundred meters, but under a sky full of drones, it may also carry that unit straight into a prepared kill zone. So is Russia discovering a new way to break Ukraine's defense? Or is it sending more troops into a battlefield already mapped from above? Pokrovsk and Myrnorod have become one of the main pressure points on the Donetsk front, because Russia is no longer trying to win the area with one large armored push. The pressure now comes in waves. Small assault groups move forward again and again, using motorcycles, ATVs, light vehicles, and infantry teams to test different routes around the Ukrainian defense. This method creates a difficult problem for Ukraine. A single attack can be stopped, but the next group may appear from another dirt road, another tree line, or another edge of a village. The goal is not always to seize a major position in one move. Often, the purpose is to force Ukraine to react, reveal firing points, spend ammunition, launch drones, and shift reserves from one sector to another. That is why this axis matters so much. Pokrovsk and Myrnorod are not just names on a map. They sit in an area tied to supply routes, troop movement, evacuation lines, and access points across the wider Donetsk battlefield. If Russia can keep this zone under constant pressure, Ukrainian units must defend not only trenches and buildings, but also the roads that connect them. The Russian approach is built around rhythm. One group moves forward, another waits behind, and a third may prepare to test a nearby lane. Even when one assault fails, the pressure does not disappear. It returns in a different shape, sometimes with motorcycles, sometimes with small infantry teams, and sometimes with light vehicles trying to push through damaged ground before Ukrainian fire can fully organize. The battlefield is filled with short movements, sudden contacts, quick losses, and repeated attempts to find a weak point. Each movement may look small, but together they create a heavy burden on the defender. For Ukraine, the challenge is not only stopping the first assault. The harder task is keeping enough eyes, drones, artillery crews, and reaction teams ready for the next one. Drone operators must watch roads, tree lines, fields, and ruined buildings at the same time. Artillery crews must decide which target matters most. Infantry units must stay alert even after one Russian group has already been destroyed. This creates pressure on time and attention. A defender can be strong in one position, but if too many small threats appear across the same zone, the defense can be stretched. Russia is trying to use that problem. The aim is to keep Ukraine looking in many directions, so one small opening may become large enough for another unit to enter. Motorcycles and ATVs fit this pattern because they do not need the same space as armored vehicles. They can move along narrow tracks, cut across broken terrain, and appear quickly in places where a heavier vehicle would be easier to spot. They do not bring the protection of a tank, but they bring speed, and Russia is using that speed to increase the number of threats Ukraine must process. But this tactic also carries a serious cost. A fast group that fails does not simply disappear from the battle. It leaves wreckage, wounded soldiers, lost equipment, and another warning sign on the route. Over time, these failed attempts turn the approaches around Pokrovsk and Mirnorod into a map of danger. The larger question is not whether one motorcycle team can reach the Ukrainian line. The real question is what happens when many small groups keep coming, hour after hour. And Ukraine must stop each one before it becomes the beginning of a breakthrough. A Russian motorcycle assault is designed to win a few dangerous minutes before Ukrainian fire can fully react. The basic idea is simple. The first riders usually act as the cutting edge of the move. They push ahead on motorcycles or ATVs, using speed to reduce the time spent in exposed terrain. Behind them, other light vehicles or small infantry groups may follow, ready to enter the same route if the first wave finds a gap. The whole movement depends on timing, because every second in the open increases the risk of being seen, tracked, and struck. This is why protection becomes secondary. A motorcycle cannot offer the armor of a tank or the carrying capacity of an APC. It gives the soldier movement, not safety. The rider is exposed to shrapnel, small arms fire, drone fragments, and blast pressure. Even if the vehicle is fitted with crude anti-drone cages or camouflage, that extra weight can reduce control and block visibility at the worst possible moment. The Russian plan tries to balance this weakness with supporting layers. A vehicle carrying electronic warfare equipment may move near the group to interfere with FPV signals. A support vehicle or short-range air defense system may stay farther back to cover the route. Infantry teams then depend on the short window created by the fast movement, hoping to dismount close enough to attack or occupy a position. On paper, the formation looks organized. Speed opens the route, electronic warfare tries to disturb incoming drones, and support assets protect the group from behind. Each part has a mission, and together they are meant to carry the assault through the most dangerous stretch before Ukraine can close the trap. But this design has one major weakness. It only works if the unit reaches the target area before Ukrainian reconnaissance understands what is happening. Once the formation is identified, the same structure that helped it move fast can also make it easier to read. The lead motorcycles, the support vehicle, the spacing, and the direction of travel all begin to reveal the plan. The narrow route also creates a hidden danger. Riders must stay close enough to keep the assault connected, but not so close that one crash blocks everyone behind. That balance is extremely hard to maintain at high speed on damaged ground. A small mistake can spread through the line almost instantly, especially when dust, smoke, shell craters, and broken tracks reduce control. Turning away can push them into softer ground. Stopping can make them stationary targets. Continuing forward can send them straight into a strike zone already watched from above. This is the brutal logic of the motorcycle assault. It is not only a race against Ukrainian defenders. It is also a race against terrain, visibility, spacing, fear, and the limits of human reaction. The faster the group moves, the less time each rider has to make the right decision when something breaks. That is why the approach can look bold and fragile at the same time. From the ground, it appears like a sudden rush meant to overwhelm a defensive line. From a tactical view, it is a chain of risks held together by speed. One broken link can turn the whole assault into confusion. But on the Pokrovsk front, the Russian formation is not only moving across the land. It is moving under a sky where Ukrainian reconnaissance FPV are watching every road, tree line, and open corridor minute by minute. Ukrainian reconnaissance FPV become dangerous long before the first one dives toward the road. Their main job at this stage is not to destroy the Russian group immediately, but to understand the movement before it reaches the Ukrainian defensive line. When a Russian assault group leaves cover, the first sign may be small. Dust rises from a dirt track. Heat signatures begin to move near a tree line. A few motorcycles appear first, then more shapes follow behind them. From the ground, this may look like a sudden rush. From above, it becomes a pattern that can be studied. The drone crew begins reading the formation like a moving map. Direction matters first, because it shows which trench, village edge, or weak point the assault may be heading toward. Once Ukrainian forces locked the Russian movement from above, the next phase was no longer simple observation. It became a controlled strike sequence, and the first target was the protection layer that gave the assault its chance to survive. The Russian formation had an electronic warfare vehicle and a support platform moving with the assault group. That asset became more important than the motorcycles around it because it protected the formation from FPV drones. Its job was to disturb drone signals, weaken video feeds, and create confusion during the final seconds before impact. As long as that shield stayed active, FPV operators faced signal breaks and unstable control near the target. That is why Ukrainian drone teams removed the protection layer before striking the wider group. One FPV drone approached from a low angle, using the terrain to reduce warning time. Another drone held higher, watching how the Russian vehicles reacted. The goal was not only to destroy one machine. The goal was to open the air around the formation. When the jammer and support vehicle were hit, the assault changed immediately. The Russian unit was still moving, but it had lost the invisible cover that protected it against FPV attacks. Drone operators then held a cleaner view, corrected their path with more confidence, and selected targets with less interference. The next strike mattered even more. A hit on the lead motorcycle and the first light vehicle broke the whole rhythm of the group. In the narrow corridor, the front vehicle was not just another target. It controlled the pace of everyone behind it. When it burned, crashed, and stopped across the route, the rest of the formation had almost no time to adjust. This was where speed turned against the attackers. The riders behind were moving too fast to think clearly, and the road was too narrow for a clean turn. Some braked hard. Others swerved into rough ground. A few continued forward because stopping in the open was even more dangerous. Within seconds, a coordinated rush became a broken line of confused movement. The danger then spread beyond the first explosion. Smoke blocked vision. Debris covered the path. A damaged motorcycle forced the next rider into a bad angle. A wounded soldier fell near the road, while another dragged himself toward the tree line. Every attempt to escape created new movement, and every movement was followed from above. At this point, Russian infantry abandoned their vehicles and ran on foot. That moment became especially dangerous because the assault lost its shape. It was no longer a formation with speed, spacing, and direction. It became scattered individuals and small groups trying to survive in exposed ground. After the lead motorcycle was destroyed, the Russian assault lost the one thing it needed most: forward rhythm. The group was still inside the corridor, but it no longer moved as a unit. It became a chain of separate targets trapped between wreckage, watched terrain, and incoming FPV drones. The riders behind the first impact reacted in different ways. Some tried to push around the burning motorcycle and lost control on broken ground. Others stopped beside the road and looked for cover that did not exist. A few abandoned their vehicles immediately, because staying mounted turned them into clear targets from above. This was the moment the assault changed from a fast attack into a survival fight. The Russian infantry had not reached the trench line. They had not created direct pressure on the Ukrainian position. They were now scattered near the approach road, forced to make decisions under drone observation and artillery threat. Ukrainian FPV teams shifted their focus quickly. The column was already broken, so the next targets were the points of movement. One drone chased a rider who tried to escape toward the tree line. Another struck a motorcycle stuck beside the wreckage. A third followed infantry moving through low ground, where speed was gone and cover was weak. Artillery then tightened the space around the road. Shells landed near the corridor to prevent the scattered group from regrouping and to block any attempt to bring in rescue vehicles. The route that Russia had used to launch the assault now worked against it. It was narrow, marked by fire, and visible from above. The infantry on foot faced the worst position. A soldier running alone created a clear movement signature. Two men moving together became a small cluster. A group trying to drag a wounded man slowed down and became easier to follow. Every attempt to survive produced new motion, and every motion gave Ukrainian drones another target to track. The support units behind the assault were forced into a hard decision. Moving forward meant entering the same corridor where the first wave had already been hit. Staying back left the scattered riders and infantry isolated near the road. The assault had created a demand for rescue, but the rescue route had already turned into part of the kill zone. This is why the loss of the motorcycle group carried a wider effect. It did not only remove several vehicles from the battlefield, it broke the timing of the attack. Infantry failed to arrive at the planned moment. Support vehicles lost their path. Commanders had to decide whether to push more men into a road already marked by drones and artillery. That delay mattered because small assault groups depend on timing. The motorcycle wave was supposed to open space for the next element, but it created a blockage instead. The follow-up force could not move with confidence, and the first group could not recover enough strength to continue. By the end of the engagement, the Russian formation no longer looked like an assault unit. It looked like scattered wreckage, abandoned motorcycles, and soldiers trying to escape through a watched corridor. The operation had begun with speed, support, and a clear direction, but it ended with broken movement and a battlefield controlled from above. The lesson was severe. A fast assault only works when speed keeps the unit ahead of the defender's reaction. Near Pokrovsk, Ukrainian drones reversed that logic. They struck the protection layer, stopped the lead vehicle, broke the formation, and turned the remaining infantry into targets before the attack reached the line. The fight around Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad is no longer only about stopping assault groups at the front line. It is becoming a battle over movement, supply, and the ability of both sides to keep their forces alive inside a shrinking space. Ukraine is expanding the fight beyond the motorcycles themselves. Once Russian assault routes are identified, the target list grows wider. Drone crews can watch light vehicles, ground robots, UAV teams, shelter points, staging areas, and small roads that bring soldiers closer to the fighting. The aim is to damage the system that feeds the attack, not only the riders who appear at the front. This matters because every assault depends on support behind it. A motorcycle team cannot create lasting pressure if infantry does not arrive behind it. A small unit cannot hold a captured point if ammunition, water, evacuation support, and drone cover do not follow. Even a fast attack loses meaning if the route behind it is blocked or watched. When Ukraine destroys a motorcycle group, the effect can move backward through the Russian operation. The next infantry team may arrive late. A support vehicle may need to find another road. A rescue effort may become too dangerous to launch. Commanders may be forced to choose between pushing more men into the same exposed corridor or losing time while searching for a safer path. That is why Ukraine's strikes against shelters, vehicle pools, drone positions, and approach roads are so important. These targets may look less dramatic than a burning motorcycle in open ground, but they shape the next hour of the battle. If a staging point is hit, the next wave may form more slowly. If a small supply vehicle is destroyed, a forward unit may wait longer for ammunition. If a drone team is forced to move, Russian infantry may lose eyes over the route. But the pressure does not move in only one direction. Russia is also trying to squeeze Ukrainian logistics around Pokrovsk and Mirnohrad. Ukrainian forces must move ammunition, rotate tired troops, bring in drone batteries, and evacuate wounded soldiers under constant threat. Every road used for support can become dangerous when Russian drones, artillery, and observation teams are watching. This creates a hard reality for the defenders. Holding a trench is only part of the mission. The unit must also stay connected to the rear. If the road behind it becomes too dangerous, the position can turn into a trap even before the enemy reaches it. A wounded soldier may wait longer for evacuation. A drone operator may run short of batteries. A mortar crew may fire less because resupply becomes harder. The villages, dirt roads, and narrow passages around this axis are now part of the battlefield. They are not just background terrain. They decide whether soldiers can move, whether vehicles can pass, and whether a unit can hold under pressure for another day. Each side is trying to make the other side's movement slower, more visible, and more costly. This is what makes the battle more serious than a single ambush. Russia wants to choke Ukrainian supply and force defenders to react from too many directions. Ukraine wants to break Russian movement before it becomes a real breakthrough. Both sides are fighting over the same question: who can still move when the sky is watching? Near Pokrovsk and Mirnorod, control does not only mean holding ground. It means controlling the roads between positions, the timing of reinforcements, and the routes used to carry wounded men out of danger. Pokrovsk and Mirnorod may now be showing one of the most dangerous lessons of modern war. An assault can fail before it even reaches the defensive line. Russia is no longer relying only on tanks, BMPs, and heavy armored columns to create pressure. Around this part of Donetsk, Moscow is using motorcycles, ATVs, light vehicles, and small infantry groups to search for gaps in Ukraine's defense. The plan is built on speed, surprise, and constant pressure. If one group fails, another can appear from a different road, a different tree line, or another edge of the battlefield. But Ukraine is turning that movement into a target. FPV drones strike the protection layer, hit the lead vehicle, and break the formation apart. Artillery then keep the corridor under fire, while scattered infantry becomes easier to track from above. This is why Pokrovsk and Mirnorod are now battles for movement and logistics. In the next phase, motorcycles and ATVs will likely keep appearing because they are cheap, fast, and easy to deploy. But the bigger question remains open. Can speed still beat a battlefield watched by drones every minute? Or will future assaults depend more on concealment, electronic warfare, and smarter movement? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis helped explain the battle more clearly, like, share, and subscribe to Military Force for more updates on the weapons, tactics, and frontline changes shaping this war.